If you've been around here for a little while, you will know that we've done a lot of trips in this van, but that has been amongst working, so we've really had to maximise our time. If you're new here, I'm Luke, this is Amy, that's Taco behind us, and yes, we have been living in this converted Sprinter for the past 2.5 years, and like I say, we've been working, so when it comes to holiday, we've really had to maximise that time.
Yeah, so in this video, we're going to give you plenty of tips and tricks on how to plan a road trip. So we're going to reference back to Scotland quite a lot. We didn't have a huge amount of time because of work holiday, so we wanted to plan, so we made the most of our time. So yeah, we're going to give you those tips and tricks on how to plan the perfect road trip.
So the first tip, it might be a little bit of an obvious one, but do your research. There's so many amazing places that we've come up against that if we hadn't done research before, we probably wouldn't have even known about it. And the worst thing is you end up finding out about it after you're back from your trip.
Yeah, so there's so many ways to do research as well, and we don't recommend just Googling the most popular thing to do. So I would recommend things like Facebook groups. You can join loads of pages of the place you're going. Again, if you just see a post of like a cool place, just note it down because you might go there in the future. Things like blogs as well. Again, like TripAdvisor, seeing reviews and stuff. We just recommend broadening your research so you're not just heading for the tourist attraction, because then you might be a bit disappointed when you get there.
Yeah, definitely. Even things like Instagram, you can literally just search the place and then so many different pictures come up and you think, oh, where's that? And then you go further and further, you find out more and more. But like Amy's saying, Facebook groups are amazing as well. So if there's a specific group for the place you're going, and then you can put questions and things like that and say, where are the places you recommend? And that is obviously going to get you kind of in a good position before you're even going.
So when we did our Scotland trips, the main thing we did was actually watch YouTube videos. So we watched YouTube videos of the other van lifers or other travellers going to Scotland and doing things that weren't quite the most popular things to do. We also did do the popular things, but then it was nice just finding the hidden gems as well. And of course you can do this by yourself, but if you have such limited time, you want to kind of know where these hidden gems are so you don't miss them. So yeah, we mainly watch YouTube videos for our Scotland trip, but yeah, all the platforms are great to do research on.
Yeah, and what we did find, I mean, it goes without saying, the touristy places are obviously going to be a lot busier, but it is them little hidden gems that, or just little park ups and things like that, that you pick up from other YouTubers or, like Amy said, from blog posts and things like that, that are just a little bit more out there, and some of them are quite often the best memories. So even though research is going to be our #1 point from this whole video, when it comes to planning, you don't want to plan too much. You only want a rough plan.
Yeah, so a rough plan is important because you don't know what you're going to discover when you actually get going. Yeah, you can have 10 things plotted on a map, but you might go to one and not like it at all and want to move on, or you might go to one of them and absolutely love it and want to stay longer than you planned. So I always like to have a rough plan. I like to have more planned than we actually end up doing. So then we can pick and choose the places that we like best.
Yeah, and we've also found as well that even though, yes, we've got this point here planned and this point here, there's so many points along the way that you pick up that, again, you don't even know about until you're actually in that location. But the other things worth mentioning as well is you might have a plan to do this amazing hike with amazing scenery, and it might be chucking it down and horrible and dangerous. So again,
have a plan B.
Yeah, have a plan B, C, D, loads of plans, but not set in stone.
So something we've been quite guilty of in the past is not setting a realistic time frame and budget.
Yeah, so on past trips we've thought, okay, we want to do all of these amazing things, and then we've tried to do all of these amazing things and got burnt out halfway through the holiday. Yep. There's only so many hikes you can do in a row. There's only so much driving you can do in a row before you really just need some downtime. So rein it back a little bit. Make sure you're hitting all the points that you want to hit and all the locations you want to see, but just be sensible with it. But again, that links in with budget, because always allow yourself a little bit of a buffer, because if you are doing a load of driving and a load of hiking, sometimes you're just not going to want to end up cooking at the end of the day. So have a little bit of buffer just so you can go out for a little bite to eat, something like that, because halfway through a long holiday, sometimes that does make all the difference, doesn't it?
And I think one of the main things we never budget for on trips is parking.
Yeah.
Like, you don't realise how much parking adds up when you want to go to, especially maybe more popular touristy places. Parking costs quite a lot of money if you have quite a big trip and you're it adds up. So definitely factor that into your budget.
And in a big vehicle as well, because a lot of the time we have to pay motorhome prices because we are essentially a motorhome, or even coach prices sometimes. So yeah, definitely take that into account and have a bag of change with you as well, because we've been caught out numerous times, especially in Scotland.
Yeah,
they don't really do contactless or technology or anything like that. It's all old school, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then that kind of brings us on to the subject of park ups and campsites. Now, we've done 2 big trips to Scotland. The first one was actually in a Mondale estate where we stayed every other night in the back of the car and every other night in a B&B. But that was very, very restrictive because we had to be in certain places at certain times. The second trip, we were in the van and we had nothing booked whatsoever over the course of about 17 days. And it was a lot freer.
Yeah.
And I think that first trip had a big bearing on us being in a van now.
Yeah, we came back from that first trip and we were desperate for a van just because there was a few places that we came to and we were like, we love it here, but then we had to get to this point for our B&B booking. So we weren't quite as flexible as when we have the van. So that is exactly why we got the van. And the second trip was so much better.
It was, yeah. So going back to the trip in the van, like I said, we had nothing booked in terms of campsites, but we did have various means that we could search for somewhere to actually park up for the night. So we had park for night, we had search for sites, and it's also worth looking at a load of pub stops, which, to be fair, are mentioned on search for sites. But that gives us a lot of options, whether we wanted just a little lay-by or we wanted to go somewhere, have a nice pub meal, and somewhere that we know that we were okay to be.
Yeah. So if you're going somewhere like Scotland, then we would recommend not actually booking any campsites unless you really want to, unless you're someone who wants to do a trip on a campsite and set up all your chairs and stuff, then that's completely fine. But we didn't book any sites because we knew Scotland was accepting of wild camping, and there's so many places to park. We did have a quick look on Park for Night and saw there was loads of places, which is why we didn't book.
But of course, at some point you are going to need facilities, and we were quite lucky. Scotland was really accommodating to us. We found a couple of campsites and asked if we could use them, and it was literally a fiver here and there. I think we used a marina at one point, and there was access to water taps and waste disposal and all sorts. So really accommodating, but not everywhere's going to be like that, especially if you're doing trips in England. It is quite tough.
Yeah.
Europe, on the other hand, is a lot easier. There's airs everywhere and it's actually quite welcomed. So you've really got to take it with a pinch of salt, and it depends where you are in the world as to how you go about that sort of side of things.
So once you've taken all this into account and you're preparing to go on your trip, we would recommend putting all the information you've collected into Google My Maps. So not Google Maps, but Google My Maps. It's a really good platform that you can have a visual record of all the places you've planned, so the things to do, the park ups, things like that. You can even use like little icons and stuff so you know what's what, and it's just a really good way to vision your trip.
And then the last thing to think about is be prepared. Now, that's in a legal sense, in just a general preparation sense, because the last thing you want to do is go through all this planning and then come unstuck at the final hurdle. So if you're going into Europe, obviously you need your Europe breakdown kit. If you're going to Norway, into the Arctic Circle, you want snow tyres. If you're going to Scotland, you want wet weather gear and walking boots. So just think ahead, so then you can actually do all the things that you have planned to do. But something else to mention as well is get a dash cam. We've been on countless very narrow roads and had some hairy moments. So if it's a difference of insurance paying out, if it really comes to that and them not paying out, then again, it's definitely worthwhile having. We've got the Vantrue N5, which gives actually a really good picture quality, and that's whether it's day or night. It's got a night mode and it's got actually internal cameras as well, so you can film the road, but you can also film what's happening in the cab and all sorts. So something like that would be amazing. But again, you can get cheaper ones as well. So if you want something literally that's just going to record the road just to help you out in the worst case scenario, then it is definitely something that we recommend. But I think that is about us done in terms of our planning a road trip video. So let us know what your next trip is. Ours is going to be quite a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's not for a while yet. So yeah, stay with us. We will be putting out some good videos when we eventually get there, but we're going to be heading into Europe for 2.5 months.
Yeah.
So very excited.
And we'll be following everything that we've listed in this video in how we plan that trip. But if this has been useful, then please do subscribe. And if you want to carry on seeing our adventures, again, subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.